Hi Maya,
Hey again. What's up?
what is a procrastination and how would you define it in your
Basic
own words?
to me, procrastination is basically a battle between your current self and your future self. It's when you know exactly what you need to do, but you decide that the temporary relief of avoiding it is more valuable than the peace of mind you'd have once it's actually finished. It's less about being lazy and more about struggling to manage the stress or boredom that comes with the tasks.
Where do people
Sorry, I
usually
didn't quite.
procrastination instead of starting their tasks on time?
Usually people dive into productive procrastination. That's when you do a bunch of other small, unimportant things like cleaning your entire room or organizing your emails, just to feel like you're being active while you're actually avoiding the one big thing that actually matters. Why do you ask? You feeling the itch to avoid something right now?
What are the most common causes of procrastination in students?
Usually it's a mix of perfectionism and fear. A lot of students are so terrified of not doing a task perfectly that the pressure becomes paralyzing, so they just don't start. Then you've got the lack of immediate reward. It's 3 weeks away, doesn't feel as urgent as scrolling through TikTok right now. Do you think it's more about the fear of failing or just the boredom of the work?
How does procrastination affect a person's productivity and success?
It creates this brutal cycle of stress. When you push things to the last minute, you're not actually relaxing during the delay. You're just spending that time feeling guilty and anxious. By the time you actually start, you're rushing, which means the quality of the work drops. Over time, that kills your confidence because you never actually see what you're capable of when you're not panicked. Do you feel like it's more of a productivity killer for you, or does it just mess with your head?
Can fear of failure lead to
Uh,
procrastination? Ex- Explain your answer.
I'm assuming you're asking what leads to procrastination. I think a huge part of it is emotional regulation. And most people think it's a time management problem, but it's actually a mood management problem. When a task feels overwhelming, boring, or scary, your brain views it as a threat. To protect you from those bad feelings, your brain pushes you towards something that gives you a quick hit of dopamine, like a snack or a video. You're not avoiding the work, you're avoiding the stress associated with the work. Does that resonate with you, or do you think it's more about just lacking a clear plan?
What role does poor time management play in procrastination?
Time management is kind of the tool you use to fight the battle, but it's not the cause of the war. If you have a great calendar, but you're still terrified of the task, you're just going to have a very organized list of things you're avoiding. That said, poor time management makes it way easier to procrastinate because when a project feels like one giant vague mountain, it's overwhelming. If you don't know how to break it down into small, manageable steps, your brain just shuts down and goes, nope, let's watch YouTube instead. Do you feel like you have a handle on the planning part, or is that where things usually fall apart for you?
How can setting small goals help reduce procrastination?
It basically tricks your brain. When you set a massive goal, your brain sees a mountain and panics, which triggers that avoidance mode we talked about. But a small goal, like I'll just write the first paragraph, feels easy. It lowers the barrier to entry. Once you actually start and get that first tiny win, you get a hit of dopamine, and suddenly the momentum takes over. It's way easier to keep moving than it is to start from a dead stop. Have you tried breaking things down like that before?
Do distractions like mobile phones and social media increase procrastination? How?
I absolutely do. They're basically designed to be procrastination machines. Social media gives you an instant, effortless hit of dopamine that's way more rewarding in the short term than the slow burn of finishing a project. When you hit a moment of friction or boredom with a task, your phone is right there as a perfect escape hatch. Doesn't just take your time, it fragments your attention. Once you've been scrolling for 20 minutes, your brain is in consumption mode, and trying to switch back to focus mode feels like a massive chore. Do you find yourself reaching for your phone the second a task gets a little difficult?
What are some practical techniques to overcome procrastination?
The Pomodoro technique is a classic. Work for 25 minutes, then take a 5-minute break. It works because it tells your brain the pain of the task is temporary. Then there's the 2-minute rule. If something takes less than 2 minutes, immediately. It stops those tiny tasks from piling up into a mountain. I also think temptation bundling is great, only allowing yourself to do something you love, like listening to a specific podcast while you're doing a task you hate. Which one of those sounds like something you'd actually stick to?
How can creating daily schedule help in avoiding procrastination?
It removes the decision fatigue that usually leads to stalling. When you don't have a plan, you spend half your energy just deciding what to do next, and that's usually when you get distracted. A schedule acts like a map. It tells you exactly where you're supposed to be and when. It turns a vague intention into a concrete commitment. But the trick is not to overschedule. If it's too rigid, one tiny mistake can make you feel like the whole day is ruined. Do you prefer a strict timetable or something more flexible?
What is the 5 minutes rule and how can it help stop procrastination?
The 5-minute rule is basically a mental contract you make with yourself. You tell your brain, I'm only going to work on this for 5 minutes, and if I still hate it after that, I can stop. It works because the hardest part of any task is the activation energy required to start. By lowering the stakes, you stop the fear or boredom from paralyzing you. Most of the time, once the 5 minutes are up, you've already broken the seal and found your flow, so you just keep going. It's all about tricking your brain into getting over that initial hump. Do you think you could commit to just 5 minutes on something you've been putting off?
How does motivation affect a person's ability to complete tasks on time?
Motivation is like the fuel, but it's also kind of unreliable. When you're highly motivated, tasks feel effortless and you're proactive. But the problem is that motivation is a feeling and feelings fluctuate. If you rely solely on feeling motivated, you're at the mercy of your mood. That's why people who are consistently successful usually rely more on systems and habits than on raw motivation. They do the work even when the motivation is zero. Do you find that you're someone who needs to be in the mood to get things done, or can you push through when you're not feeling it?
Can breaking large tasks into smaller parts help in overcoming procrastination? Explain.
Mm, I'm assuming you mean breaking large tasks into smaller parts. Oh, still looks. It's like the difference between trying to eat a whole cake in one bite versus taking small slices. When a project is huge, it feels abstract and intimidating, which triggers that avoidance reflex. Breaking it down turns a scary project into a checklist of easy wins. Each time you cross something off, you get a little win, and that momentum keeps you from stalling. Do you usually try to tackle things all at once, or are you more of a step by step person?